Okay, and we're back live. So for today's podcast, we have an agenda of upcoming fixtures where we're going to focus mainly on the Premier League and Championship for this week. And then in future episodes, we will look at League One and League Two. But we are going to be joined today by some very special guests. Firstly, we have Paul, who is a lifelong Birmingham City fan. Paul, how are you?
Yeah, not bad.
Not
Struggling being a lifelong Birmingham City fan.
But you're not having the best of seasons.
No, not having that. Oh, wow. Compared to other seasons, we're not in the relegation battle, so
Yeah, that's always positive.
it's not too bad.
Where do you think's
worse.
where do you think's a good position for you guys to finish this season? Just mid-table?
Oh, anywhere out of the bottom three.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think as long as we're not struggling towards the last of the season, trying to get a win, then it's a successful season for us.
Yeah, definitely. And then fellow Birmingham City fan Ben is back. How are you, Ben?
Good, very well, thank you. I would say it's good to be back, but I'm going to be on every episode, so
That's true. But then you can bring your intelligent insight into everyone. How do you think Birmingham?
You'd need some intelligent insight first.
That's very true. Ben, you're also a Birmingham City fan. Would you agree with Paul's description of the season so far?
I actually don't think it's been that bad. I think in comparison to the previous 3, 4, 5 seasons, I actually think it's been relatively calm. There's been a few frustrating moments, of course there is, but yeah, I think it's going okay. I think anywhere above, as Paul says, the top 3 or 4 is a good season for us.
Okay, and then we're also joined by another guest, Matty. How are you, Matty?
Hello, everybody. You all okay?
Yeah, not bad. So I'm starting to feel like the odd one out here, but Matthew is also a Birmingham City fan.
I am.
It should just be a Birmingham City podcast.
Yeah, it should have.
And I'll just be here asking you questions.
No, you're just here because you're the only one that knows how to record anything.
Just be the special guest referee. So what I also wanted to do was I wanted to start off this one a little bit different, but something that I want to introduce into future podcasts, and I want to challenge your guys' mental ability with a quick quiz. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to name a list of former teams, and you guys have to tell me what player it is. So This player played for Independiente, River Plate, Real Madrid, Inter Milan, Leicester City, and Olympiacos.
Cambiasso.
And that was completely pointless. Well done, Paul.
Easy one.
I promise I'll get harder. I started off with an easy one just to kickstart it.
It's a good start. Good question.
Yep.
So what we're going to do is talk about the Premier League today, and we're going to focus on 3 fixtures that we've picked out because we think that they're good fixtures, and also some of them have good talking points. And we're going to start at Man City against Liverpool. So the first thing that I want to ask you is, what do you think is going wrong for Liverpool this season?
Who's that aimed to? Anyone?
It's open to the group.
I thought that their average age in the midfield is about 300.
I have to admit, when it said that we'd signed Milner on a year-long extension, I didn't think he'd be playing as many games as what he has done. It seems that he's like not only the more senior player, but he's the most turned-to midfielder that we have. But then when you think about players like Naby Keita, you can kind of see why.
I think with Milner, though, he can still do a job at his age. He's one of these. He's like a veteran.
But
who can still do a job for a big team like Liverpool.
But
but you're not going to push. You're not going to push for the top end of the table if you've still got Milner's having to do a job for you.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's fair enough. But I mean, he's always be able to slot in there and do a job.
If you need him to do a job for that one game or that 2 or 3 games a season, then he will do that job. But I think having him as a 15 or 20 game a season kind of player at this stage for Liverpool is just not right, is it?
No, he could probably play every game every season, but off the bench, 15-20 minutes to fill in to do a job for the club, and he's still able to do it.
It's the positions that they kind of play him in that worries me. Like, I know centre mid, like obviously he can do a job, but I don't see him as like your sit in front of the back four defending kind of centre mid.
No.
And then also when we play him at right back, like if you're playing up at right back against some of the players now that play on the wing, Milner, like as much as he can run around all day, he can't do it at the kind of speeds that some of the players can run. So you're having to kind of change it because if he does push forward, he isn't going to get back. But yeah, I think that's part of the problem. But then obviously injuries haven't helped, and a lot of people are saying that Liverpool have got fatigue from last season, which is something that I kind of disagree with.
To be honest with you, I think that a lot of teams now have just figured out the high line and the press that Liverpool try and play, because eventually, it doesn't matter what team you are, eventually a team's going to suss how you play. And I think the inability for Liverpool, or maybe Klopp, in 90% of the games to change that way of playing, it kind of allows teams to counter them. It allows them to exploit their weaknesses, like, for example, putting pressure down Liverpool's right-hand side with Trent and whoever that midfielder is that covers and stuff. And I think teams just understand that a bit more now, and that's where they're kind of capitalising.
I don't think they can do that high press anymore with all them old legs.
That's what I mean.
But it's been...
And then now you've got Trent out on the right-hand side, who's finally been found out for the bit of a fraud right back that he is. Like, he's good going forward. He's good with the ball at his feet, but defensively, he's absolutely poor.
So I agree with what you're saying about Trent. There have been games this season where I think he's finally remembered how to defend, but it's glimpses. It's not like he's a good defender and then he's bad in some games. It's like he's bad in the majority of games, and then some games he knows how to defend.
I think he's shoehorned into a team because of how good he is on the ball.
Yeah. I think as well, a lot of his like the assists that him and Robertson have got over the years has kind of like helped him cement his position, and he doesn't have any competition. You look at Robertson, like if he doesn't play well, we'll play Simicas. If Trent doesn't play well, the only other person we can play is, like at the moment, Milner or Joe Gomez at right back, but Gomez has had his own problems this season. So defensively,
I think Robertson's twice the player Trent is.
I think Robertson, he's got four back, hasn't he? Yeah.
I think he's one of the best left backs in the world.
I agree with that.
Or left wing backs in the world.
And I think another problem that we have is just general creativity. Crystal Palace, at Palace, we just looked like we could have played that game for as long as you want, and we just wouldn't have broke them down. Like when teams kind of come to us and say, okay, we're going to put a bank of 4 and a bank of 5 in front of you, break us down. Liverpool are just like, okay, well, we'll pass the ball around our defence for half an hour, then we might try a cross into the box, and if that doesn't work, then we'll try it again. And we just don't seem to have that creative spark that we had when we had Mane in the team, because I think we relied a lot more on pressing teams high up the pitch, winning the ball back, and then just really hitting them hard and high up. Whereas now there's been a few games where a player can have the ball and you've got no Liverpool player going to challenge him. The only person who seems to press at the moment is Henderson when he plays.
I think Mane has been a bigger loss for Liverpool than what Klopp made out and he thought would be, because he hasn't replaced Mane with the same player Mane was. Like, he's brought in Nunes, but he's not a Mane, is he, really?
He's not at the moment. I think he will be. I think first season in the Premier League, I think he struggled. I think he will be over time.
Matty, do you think that if they would have got rid of Salah instead of Mane, that they would... I mean, I know defensively it's an issue, but do you think they'd be scoring more goals, winning that more game, drawing instead of losing?
No, well, that's a tough one. I don't know. Mane and Salah are completely different in my eyes. Mane was just a workhorse. He did not stop. And Salah's more, he wants to score goals, but he's not getting the service from midfield this season. So you could probably say Salah going would have been a better option than keeping Mane, but it's a tough one.
So I think that a lot of the times as well, when Salah has had the ball, he hasn't looked like his old self.
Frustrating.
No, like sometimes he'll get the ball and he'll run at a defender. If the defender's quicker than him, Salah seems to like struggle. Then, like he rarely beats his man. There'll be some games, obviously like Man U, where we beat him 7-0, where Salah looks on form.
Just drop that in there.
Well, I'm thinking specifically about the time when he ran at Martinez and turned him, and then played it into Gakpo for Gakpo to score. But like other times when Salah's running at people, like I rarely see him like beat them. Like Bournemouth, he didn't have a good game against Bournemouth. I don't think he beat his man at all. He missed the penalty. Like he's had chances to really run at players, but then he'll show glimpses. So like say the Man U game, and also against Man City where he Alisson played a long ball to him, and then his one touch took it past Cancelo, and then he was through on goal. There's like again just glimpses of Salah's former self, but for the majority of games he has, I don't know if it's a lack of confidence or what, he just doesn't look as good as what he did last year.
I think it's because defences aren't as stretched as much. Because there's no Mane on the other side being as dangerous as he is. When you had Mane and Firmino or whoever else they decided to put up front with them, you had Salah going down one wing, Mane going down the other. If you, for a split second, took your eye off either one of them two, they were in the space to either make the goal or score the goal.
Yeah.
With just Salah and with Núñez still bedding in, you haven't quite got the threat that the front three did have, and they don't stretch the defence as much. There's not that much quality up top anymore.
I think Salah's also, I think his role might have changed because, as you said, when you had Mane and Firmino, those players, Firmino would drop a little bit deeper, and then Salah and Mane would almost make a front two with Firmino in like a kind of cam position where those two would be the main goal scorers, whereas Salah's staying wide now. And you kind of see Gakpo and Núñez swapping positions a lot more. So I don't know if Salah's been asked to play more of a winger and less of a goal scorer. That might be part of the problem.
Well, I think Firmino was the reason that they scored as many goals as they did.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I think he was underrated. I do, Firmino. I think he was absolutely mega in what Liverpool did. Well, at their very best, Firmino was running the show.
Yeah, 100% agree. And what
Do you think that Klopp's time's up, Chris, as a Liverpool fan? Do you think he's had his day now and it's took him as far as he can take him?
No, I don't think so. I think if you look at what Klopp's done with the team, I think Liverpool's been massively in need of rejuvenating the squad and new players. And I don't think that he gets the money that he needs to rejuvenate as many areas as the squad. So a lot of the time he relies on, players like
James Milner.
James Milner to fill gaps where a Man City, for example, would have already been out there and bought a new centre mid if they needed him. For example, they didn't need Calvin Phillips and they just went and bought him. So they've always got that option. Whereas we've been relying on the same midfield for a long time now. We've got Oxlade-Chamberlain, who's the most injury-prone player I've ever seen. Naby Keita. Yeah, Naby Keita, who's also injury-prone, but also doesn't look interested in playing when he does get on the pitch. Milner, who's 37. Henderson, who's 32 or 33 now. Thiago, who's also massively injury-prone. I mean, it's odds law that we go and loan Arthur, and then as soon as we loan him, he gets injured for most of the season.
But then did you need to sign Gakpo for 40 million or whatever it was?
I think Gakpo was a long-term replacement for Firmino. Because Firmino himself has been injury-prone this season. I think he was only ever, if he decided to sign a new contract, he was only going to be a bit part player next year.
He said he's going, and he said he's gone.
Yeah, so...
He's leaving at the end of the season.
And I think...
The Blues on loan.
Well, he wouldn't need to go on loan, would he? He's a free agent. I think Gakpo was a good signing. And I think it's part of a bigger plan that Klopp's got. But then it just depends on whether or not Klopp can get the funds to go and put new players into that team.
To be fair to Oxlade-Chamberlain, though, if I'd got one a little mix at home, I'd pretend I was injured as well.
Well, the downside to Oxlade-Chamberlain is when he plays, he actually looks good.
Oh, he's a great player, I think.
He just
when
doesn't...
he's fit and he's playing well, he's a great player.
Yeah.
But I'd be at home every chance I got if one a little mix was there.
So I think I wouldn't replace Klopp. I'd give Klopp the time and the funds to.
Klopp's earned it. Klopp's earned his time. He should be allowed to decide that actually I've had enough and I'm going. Like he's earned enough time to rebuild that Liverpool squad and have another go at it.
Yeah, and then the other question you'd look at is who would you replace him with? I don't think there's any manager out there who you could replace Klopp with.
No.
But then that's going on.
Pep
playing
and he
this-
ain't coming.
Yeah.
But that's going on playing the same style of football, though, isn't it? You know, if you're looking for a like replacement of Klopp, then yes, there probably isn't anyone out there, or none there are as good as him. But managers bring in different philosophies, don't they?
Sean Dyche.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, but that's the kind of thing, though, isn't it? You're not going to bring a Sean Dyche. Like, if you was going to replace Klopp right now, you'd look for another top quality world class manager, and it would have been someone like Tuchel if he hadn't have gone to Bayern Munich. I don't think
There's two managers that are head and shoulders above everyone else, and it's Klopp and Pep.
Yeah.
In the
And
Prem.
if you're not going to take Klopp, or if you lose Pep or Klopp, there's only each other that can really do the job to replace them. Like anything less than them two is a step backwards.
Yeah. And that brings us nicely into the next talking point, Man City. So I suppose the main thing I'd say about Man City is, can you see them winning the league this season, or do you think it's Arsenal's title?
I think it's Arsenal's to lose, but I think Arsenal will lose it.
Okay.
I think. Go on,
I don't think their squad is deep enough. I think a couple of injuries and they're done. And I think that I don't think Man City lose a game now. I can see Arsenal losing a game.
I think what I was going to say is that the thing with Man City and Guardiola is that they're experienced and quality enough to not really give 100% in the Premier League. So I think their biggest ambition this season is to win the Champions League. But I still think them at 80% focus in the Premier League is good enough to still win it, because Arsenal can't see them going unbeaten for the rest of the season.
They've got to play City on the 26th of April, haven't they?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that's a massive 6-pointer for both of them.
Yeah.
Whoever wins that, I think, is they're probably going to win the league.
Potentially, yeah. You know, I mean, Arsenal lost to Everton. It might be the new manager effect, whatever. You know, and they got held by Southampton, which, yes, Tottenham drew against them. But the thing is, Arsenal are capable of doing that. And I think Paul's right. I don't think Man City are going to lose another game for the rest of the season.
No, I can't see it either.
I mean, Arsenal have this season been doing quite well in terms of games that they look down and out in. They've managed to rally around and fight back, which is like the old sort of Man United spirit under Ferguson, where they
This is the best Arsenal we've seen for ages.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
I wonder a little bit if those kind of fighting until the 97th minute and then, you know, pulling yourselves back from 2-0 down and winning the game in injury time, like, have they started doing it a little bit too early? Will teams start to know that Arsenal are going to keep on going and learn how to counter that? And the other thing I would say is, I think in a head-to-head, Man City beats Arsenal. I can't see Arsenal playing Man City and winning that game, unless Man City are on an off day.
I can't, but then again, I couldn't see Arsenal winning a few games that they have won already this season.
Yeah.
And they've gone and done it.
So, do you guys think that this season is Man City's for the Champions League, or?
Well, they've got Bayern, haven't they? That's going to be a tough game.
Yeah.
Bayern pushovers.
Who's still left in the Champions League?
So you've got Bayern, Real Madrid. Is it Porto?
Inter.
Napoli in it as well.
Napoli, AC Milan.
Napoli look good, you know. I've watched Napoli a few times this season, and I thought they stand a chance they do.
Yeah, you also got Chelsea as well. I think if you look at the fixtures, though, Benfica, Inter, Man City, Bayern, Madrid, Chelsea, Milan, Napoli.
I think you're looking at a Man City or Bayern against Napoli in the final.
Madrid is still there though. You can't write Madrid off, can you?
Can't. No, but I just think Man City and Bayern are just.
But then I look at the way Bayern beat PSG. I can't help but think Bayern are winning that game. The first leg as well, being at Man City, that means that they've then got to go to Munich. I just see Bayern doing a job.
Bayern have got a big game this weekend as well, haven't they? They've got Dortmund and Dortmund
yeah.
the top of the league. So
And
could be that they concentrate on the league and have a weakened side in the Champions League.
Could be. They've also got a new manager as well. That could have an effect.
The last time Tuchel took charge of a team halfway through a season, he won the Champions League, didn't they? I'm not saying it's going to happen this time, but
that's true.
That's in his favour.
That's true. And how long do you think Pep stays?
I think once he wins the Champions League, he moves on to somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think he goes to PSG.
Do you think there's a time limit on that, or do you think he's got?
I think he's the closest they've ever come. He's the best manager in the world. Like, you just got to give him the time to do his thing, ain't you? Like, yeah. I can't see you sacking him and giving yourself a better option.
No.
There's not really many managers out there though without a club, is there?
Well, Man City don't need a manager without a club, do they? They just go and come and work for us for millions of pounds, yeah.
Yeah, we just buy them out.
Come and have the best players in the world. Come and have a load of money.
To be fair, you'll get every manager jump here, won't you, Viera?
Yeah. There's no one in the world that ain't gonna go there.
It's like you said before, though. Like the only person you replace Pep with is Klopp. So if you're Man City and you've got every manager in the world available, and you already have one of the best managers in the world as your manager, how do you get rid of him? Like, the only way I see Pep leaving is Pep walking himself.
Yeah, I thought he would walk at the back end of last season when they lost the Champions League.
He needs to win. He's not going to go anywhere until he wins that Champions League. If he doesn't win the Champions League, if he wins the Champions League, he goes down as like potentially one of the best managers. Well, he's already one of the best managers ever been. But he strengthens his case as the best manager ever.
Yeah.
So he needs that Champions League win.
And he has that history of Man City as well, doesn't he? Like, I know he already does, but, you know, Man City are going to be winning Premier Leagues for years to come. But to be the manager who won them their first ever Champions League.
Yeah.
Like,
I think he likes being there as well, to be fair to him. I think he likes being in Manchester.
Seems like
it. Always got his Stoney on, hasn't he?
And a cigar in his mouth after every season.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll move on to the next fixture, which is Newcastle against Man United. And the first question is obviously going to be, do we think Newcastle can make top 4?
The way they're playing, there's a chance.
I hope not.
Why is that?
There's something.
I absolutely hate them. Go on. They go on about being one of the biggest clubs. No, we fill our stadium and we do this and we do that. They're a one city team. Like, if you like football, where else are you going to go? If you live in Newcastle and you like football, what are you going to do? You're not going to go and watch Whitley Bay United, are you? You're going to go and watch Newcastle. Like, there's no other choices there.
No.
Unless you want to travel.
Just as much nutting.
I just think I don't like when, I know it's happened a few times now, but I don't like when a club gets bought out by these investors that just pump millions and millions and millions into it, because I don't know, it just kind of takes away.
I don't mind if someone coming in and pumping millions into it. What I really don't like when they come in with a dodgy human rights record.
Well, no. But it's just it kind of takes away that build up, because what's stopping Newcastle next season from getting rid of Eddie Howe, getting a top manager and just pumping 200 million for him to spend?
Well, that's what they're gonna do. That's what will happen in the end.
But then, I just don't really like that.
Well, that's just going to be football for years to come, isn't it? It's like, unless you're the richest club, you're not going to get anywhere near. And I think that's going to start becoming a problem for teams like Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham. Is that financially, you're just not going to be able to compete with Man City and Newcastle. And if Man U get bought out by Qatari owners, which has been reported, like, those three teams are just going to be able to afford to go and buy anyone they want. And not only that, but then they'll also buy players like, I think Liverpool were interested in Calvin Phillips. Man City went and bought him, and they've only played him 56 minutes this season. You know, there's talk of him actually leaving to go to other clubs at the end of the year. So it's like not only can they buy the best players in the world for their first team, they can buy the best players in the world to stop other clubs from buying them as well.
Well, the thing is, like, Newcastle ain't going to be able to attract that world-class caliber of a player at the moment, regardless of the money. I think they need to break in the top four.
Money talks. I think there's a lot of players now that they don't care whether they're playing Champions League football and things like that, as long as they're getting millions of pounds.
Oscar's a prime example, only from Chelsea when he went to China.
Yeah.
And he went for the money. He said, "I don't care. I'm going. I've got to think about my future." He's getting paid £500 a week.
Yeah, but Erling Haaland, for example, was never going to pick Newcastle over a Man City.
Yeah, but Erling Haaland knows that he's the best striker in the world, so he's going to get the money regardless of where he goes.
Yeah.
But that's the same as the majority. Like Vinicius isn't going to go to Newcastle just because they're going to pump him 300k a week.
Robinho went to Man City because they pumped him full of money.
Yeah, I bet Neymar would.
Yeah.
Probably be able to attract Neymar, yeah. But don't get me wrong, look, I'm not saying that any Premier League team would be able to get a player like that anyway, like, but I just think with Newcastle, like, they've got a good manager in Eddie Howe. I don't think they're going to make top four personally this season. But then I think that they'll get rid of him, whether it's next season or the season after. They'll try and attract this other big man, just take that next step. And then all of a sudden they just become a club that I just don't really... I've got no feelings to them anyway, but they'll just be one that I hope lose every game.
So do you think that Newcastle are a big manager away from being able to attract these players? Like if they went out now and got a manager like, I don't know, a Thomas Tuchel or like a big name manager, that suddenly then they would be able to attract these world-class stars? Or do you think they need to start winning titles, Champions Leagues and so on and so forth?
I think titles are probably a bit out there, but I think they need to make the Champions League.
Or at least Europe. Just be in Europe to start. If they can get Europe this season.
Champions League is where the big players are, isn't it? But if you get Champions League, you can normally start to entice a better standard of player to your team.
Yeah. Okay, and with Man United, obviously it's looking odds on that they're going to finish third this season. Do you think that we're starting to see the early signs of Man U coming back to the old Man U that we all know?
I hope not.
I think if you define the old Man U as in like the golden years, then absolutely not. I don't think anyone would be able to replicate what Ferguson done.
No, but
since Ferguson, it's just been a horror show there, hasn't it?
Do you see them being able to compete for the title next season, for example?
I think they could.
I think so. I think if they have a good summer, good transfers, he gets in a few more players that he wants, I think they'll start to compete again. And then if they get the takeover, then they'll definitely start to compete again.
Yeah. And what do you think? Because obviously Man U, they have had, they've looked good since Ten Hag's taken over, but then they have had some patchy performances. For example, Liverpool, Man City, they've took some heavy defeats as well. Do you think that that's just a transition period from them sort of shaking off the old style and starting to come good, or do you think they'll always have the problem against the bigger teams? Not that
I think the Liverpool game, I know it was a big loss, but it's you can't. I don't think you can look at that game and take anything from it, because every season there is a team that gets whooped by 7 or 8 goals. Normally Southampton, but this time Man United. And it's just one of them games where Man U are bad and Liverpool are good. And they're as bad as they are good as each other, and you end up with one absolutely spanking. But Liverpool could have took shots from the halfway line that game and they would have gone in. That's how easy they seem to find it to score. And they're just a game that I think is just an anomaly in the season, where everything goes right for one team and everything goes wrong for the other. Because then you look at Liverpool's game after that and they lose to Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Well, I just think whenever somebody gets beat by that many goals, I don't think you can look at it seriously as, oh, they're not back. Man U aren't back where they need to be, or Liverpool are back where they should be. It's just one of them ones where you go, well, it's just a freak result.
Yeah. I think if Man City beat Man United 7-0, you look at it and go, yeah, well, it's Man City. Like, they have the ability to turn over any team. Like, there's a realistic chance that they could do the same to Liverpool this weekend. But I think the most concerning part for me was that you go in at half-time 1-0 down. Man, you didn't look terrible in the first half. They actually looked all right. They had some opportunities. You think that they're going to come out at the start of the second half and take the game to Liverpool, and suddenly it goes 2-0 down, then 3-0 down, and you would surely think at some point Ten Hag would go, all right, shut up shop there. We've lost this game. We'll take a 3-0 loss. We'll take it, and then we'll move on next game. But then they just kept on trying to attack Liverpool, and Liverpool just kept on saying, okay, we'll go and score another. We'll go and score another. And I don't know if it was like naivety on Ten Hag's part, or whether if Man U did decide to sit back and defend, would Liverpool have still scored 7?
Man U've got so many injuries though as well. If they had a full squad against Liverpool, I don't think it would have been 7 now.
But who was they missing?
Yeah, was Varney missing? Martial's been injured.
I mean, would Martial start in this Man U team?
You would have thought so. Who else have they got? Rashford.
Weghorst.
Who would you rather have, Martial or Weghorst?
Well, Weghorst, he kind of fits into that style that he wants to play, doesn't he? Like, Weghorst doesn't play as their sort of out-and-out striker. He tends to drop a bit deeper, and then Rashford will push ahead of him. But aside from... Because they had Varane playing, they had Martinez, they had Shaw, they had Dalot playing for the first half, then they had Casemiro, Fred, Anthony, Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, Weghorst. They had a full-strength team, man.
Weghorst is it's such a strange signing that was, but
he's a donkey. He's a donkey.
But I think with Ten Hag,
I'd rather Djukovic than Weghorst.
Oh god, that's a debate that I don't want to have, to be honest. Yeah.
It reminds me.
If we're gonna have bad words about Djukovic now, I'll shut this thing down.
Weghorst reminds me more of Nikola Zigic than he does of Djukovic.
But again, we're not having anything bad about him either. Cancel the lot if we're going to start slagging off absolute legends of the football game.
Okay.
I think, in my opinion, with Ten Hag is it's just a learning. I think any manager that comes from a foreign league to the Premier League, it's just a learning curve, and I think you have to learn it quite quick, because the Premier League is, in my opinion, the best league in the world, because it's fast, it's powerful, it's high pressing, it's also stubborn defending, hard defenders, kick, pull, like all that kind of things that you probably don't see in many other leagues. And once Ten Hag kind of adapts to that style as well and brings that dirty side into Man U a little bit, then you won't see them lose 7-0. You won't see them lose 4-0 to Brentford. You won't. I'm not saying they will never lose. Obviously they will, but they won't have these anomaly results. I think.
The best thing Ten Hag's done at Man U is bring back the discipline and bring back the sort of kid togetherness of the dressing room. Got rid of Ronaldo. Got rid of anyone that isn't on their side. Like, got rid of people that were leaking things to the press and all that sort of stuff. And then he's just not having it. If you're not pulling your weight, you're out.
Yeah.
And it's what Fergie used to do. Like, no one was bigger than Man United.
Yeah.
Like, Fergie got rid of Yap Stam when he was probably the best defender in the world.
Yeah, that's true.
Because he just didn't. It was like, nah, we're Man United. We're the big Beckham, one of the best midfielders in the world at the time, out on that wing, and he gets rid of him because he's becoming bigger than the club.
Yeah, and just to touch on that as well, like if you see a manager lose 4, 5, 6, 7-0, whatever it might be, the kind of the heads down, they look a bit. Whereas with Ten Hag, he just looks more determined. It just looks genuinely angry at his players. It's like, right, that ain't gonna happen again.
Yeah, I like Ten Hag. I think he's a good manager. I think he's exactly the type of manager that Man U needed.
Yeah.
And I think that him coming back in there, I can see him getting United back to being a title challenging team. I think if they do get bought out, and he also has the money to spend to go and bring in the kind of players that he wants to fit his the style of football that he was playing at Ajax, like it'll be good to be a Man U fan at those times. I think he will bring back the good times.
Bringing back Fergie days.
I don't think they'll ever achieve what they achieved with Ferguson. I think with Man City being the powerhouse that they are, Newcastle given time and money, what they'll become. I can't see Man U dominating anymore, but I can see them.
The good thing about it is if Man U come back to where they potentially was, you got Newcastle coming up, you've got Arsenal playing well again, Chelsea potentially going to start playing well again, Man City and Liverpool already up there, or Liverpool need to come back a little bit, but that's a group of teams
It's exciting.
that
And then
that
you've
are all
got
going for the
Spurs.
top of the table. Spurs are always going to be Spurs.
Then you got Spurs just sitting there.
If Spurs are fighting for fourth, though, it's just another team that's just in that mix. I don't think Spurs are
Spurs,
the league.
how Spurs got an invite to that when they were going to do that Super League. It's like they sat there going, please, it's a big six. It's a big six. Don't leave us out.
It's like they had to fill a
must have
quota.
They probably paid to enter.
All right, so moving on. The third game that I wanted to take a look at was Palace against Leicester.
Because you got to have one boring one in there.
Well, I don't think it's boring. I think
It's going to be dreadful.
well, it's going to spark a bit of a question afterwards. But do you,
boy, Hodgson's back.
but do you think
On the pitch looking like an owl.
It's going to be a boring 0-0, isn't it?
It's going to be terrible.
so? My question is, like, what do you see? Like, do you see Roy Hodgson has been like a long-term appointment, or is he just there until the end of the
he's nearly dead.
But do you?
He's not long term anything, is he?
Yeah, but why did they bring back Hodgson?
I think that's what
Safe.
everyone wants to know, isn't
Safe.
it?
Is it because he knows
Just
the team?
safe.
Knows some
Yeah,
of the players?
it's just safe.
But it's like they've. I
They're
don't.
trying to avoid relegation, aren't they?
Well, I
Yeah.
suppose we were going to have a debate
Panic
after
buttons.
this. We were going to have a debate after this about stacking Viera, but we can move it forward.
There's
Like,
nothing to talk about the Crystal Palace Leicester game, so we might as well move on to it now.
well, I think that
I think there is, though, because, like, I mean, first of all, obviously, you've got the whole Roy Hodgson career new manager effect. I don't personally think Vieira was doing bad at all. But then from a flip
No, I
side...
don't think Viera was doing bad.
No. From a flip side, then, you've got Leicester, who are currently fourth from bottom, playing not that bad, but for some reason can't buy a win at the moment. Like,
I've watched Leicester sometimes this season, and I've just thought, you're a dreadful man.
in some games, of course, yeah.
at
But
the start of the season, they looked like a team that were going to go down. I think if they didn't have James Maddison, I think James Maddison at times is like he's been really good for them and fully deserved the England call-up that he got. But I think when you're a team like Leicester and you're selling off that many players that they have, you're always going to have a difficult season. Like losing Schmeichel and replacing him with Danny Ward, I don't think that was very good.
Got no money though, ain't they?
Yeah, so it's always going to be.
Their money's they're it's all to do with duty free and stuff like that, and it is how the people who own them make their money. It's through the duty free. They own duty free stuff, so. With the coronavirus and no travel, obviously nobody's buying any duty free and making no money.
Yeah. So do you think that Leicester will be dragged into a relegation battle?
I think they're already in it.
I think they're already there, mate.
I think you can go up to I think you can look up the league. I think once you get to them 30 ones down in Aston, they're the only ones that are. Once you get to them they're the only. In fact, I think Villa are the only team not playing for anything this season.
Yeah, I mean, Villa fans are probably trying to say, they're only 9 points off fifth, but yeah, I think their
Villa fans
season's...
tell you a lot of things, don't they?
Yeah.
I think Leicester are just lucky there's worse teams below them, like your Southampton and your Bournemouth. Otherwise, they would be down there.
Yeah, but you think about it, West Ham are below them.
Well,
It's only by a point, though.
if Leicester lose and Southampton win, Southampton can go above them.
Yeah, but another thing that
confuses
me...
Southampton can go
yeah.
above them.
Yeah. The only other thing that confused me as well with the sacking of Viera is that, so all the games obviously that Palace have been playing, they've had Man City, they've had Arsenal, they've had Brighton, hard games. Their next 6 games, right, they've got Leicester, who are below them.
Yeah.
They've got Leeds, who are down there. They've got Southampton, who are bottom. They've got Everton, who are there. They've got Wolves, who are there. They've got West Ham, who are below them. Like, they've got 6 of the bottom 7 teams to play, and yet they sat Viera when I think personally Viera gets points out of them.
But did they sack him because Hodgson's been there, done that, worn the
I
T-shirt,
think
knows how
they've
to...
panicked.
Yeah.
They've panicked. They're looking at these thinking, we're going to go into 3-4 we are. I can bring in Hodgson, experienced, already knows the club, knows the players, and he might steady the ship just enough to keep us up. But if you look at the table from 12th to 20th, they're all in a relegation battle.
Yeah.
You got Palace in 12 on 27 points, Southampton in 20th on 23 points. Any one of them teams, you could pick any one of them to be in the bottom three.
Yeah, I agree.
I think if Hodgson comes and wins 3 or 4 games out of this next 6 or 7, he's going to be drafted as this king, and they can do that. But in my opinion, I think Viera wins 3 or 4 of the next 6-7 games.
Yeah.
So it's for me, it's just hard to turn around and say, unless Hodgson does bad, it's hard to turn around and put a case saying, "Oh, Hodgson's done really well here."
Yeah.
I think Palace probably would have survived that.
Or do.
I think they would have survived. The only thing that I think would be quite concerned is if you look at the record over the last 5 games, Palace have lost 4, drawn 1. The only
But
team...
look at the team. They played all the top teams, didn't they?
They played Liverpool, they played Brentford away, Man City, Arsenal, Brighton away, Man U.
They're teams that they're all teams that you would be arguing that's a tough running.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. And then obviously with Leicester, they also have a joint worst form in the last 5 games. They've also drew 1, lost 4. It's basically going to be a boring game, isn't it? It could be one of those games where...
It's going to be a 0-0.
Yeah.
I've actually got it down as a 2-1 win for Palace.
Okay. So what we can do then is we can jump onto the prediction. So what do we predict for Man City, Liverpool?
Man City 3-1.
Matty?
I'm going to go 3-2 City.
Ben?
I've got 4-2 City.
Okay. So I was originally going to go 7-1 to Liverpool. No, but the only thing that I think is that if you look at Liverpool this season, we have been terrible, but not against the top teams. We've done the double over Newcastle, we've beat Man City, we've beat Tottenham. We played well against, we beat Man U, and we played well against Arsenal, but we lost the away leg. I don't think it's going to be as easy a fixture as what many people would think. We do seem to be able to play against the top 6 this season. That being said, it is Man City and it is at Man City. So my prediction is the same as Matty's. I think it's going to be 3-2 to Man City.
Foden's out, though, isn't he? Foden's out and Haaland's potentially out.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure. We might have Diaz back, but he hasn't played for so long. I don't think he'll play a big part in it. We're still missing. Liverpool are still missing the likes of Thiago. I'm not even going to count Keita because Keita not playing is not a miss. But so I think we're starting to get a full strength team back.
But your full strength team is still 80 years old.
That is the problem. But yeah, I think it'll be 3-2 to Man City. Newcastle against Man United. What do we think the score's going to be?
I think 2-2.
I've got 2-2 down.
I've got 2-1 United.
I think we're going to have a replica of the final. I think it's going to be 2-0 United.
Have they got Pope back and?
Yes, I think Pope's playing.
Yeah,
I think 2-2. Yeah.
Okay, and then finally, the game we're all looking forward to: Palace and Leicester. What's the score going to be?
2-1 Palace.
8-8.
I've got a boring draw. I have 0-0 or 1-1.
Yeah, I've gone 1-1.
I can just see Palace nicking it. I think it'll be 1-0 to Palace.
It's going to be 1-1 and no shots on target. They're both going to be deflections that were going miles forward. And then they're going to be only shots of the game.
I won't be watching them on Match of the Day anyway, let's face that. Unless they win 2-1, then I will.
I just see it as being 2 teams not wanting to lose the game.
Yeah.
That'll be pretty much the strength of it. So we've kind of covered Viera.
Roy Hodgson, 18 mice on the side of the pitch.
So we've kind of covered the Viera Hodgson debate. And what I wanted to talk about was a topic that you brought up, Paul, before in WhatsApp, where you said that managers should only be allowed to be sacked during a transfer window.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to discuss why you think that is a good idea, and then get everyone else's thoughts on whether that's a good idea or not.
Mainly, I think it's a good idea because I don't think managers get given enough time anymore. So I feel like if you can only change your manager in a transfer window, one, they get more time to try and actually sort out the problem, and then two, like, why can you can't change your team whenever you like through the season, but you can just keep sacking managers whenever you like. It just makes no sense to me. I just think that you've got a manager, you've picked him, you should have to keep him until the transfer window, so then you can get rid of him then. And I think if you do sack him before a transfer window, then you have to use one of his backroom staff or somebody that's already at the club. I don't think you should be allowed to bring in another manager.
So it's not.
Just have to...
It's not so much the sacking; it's more you can't recruit.
I think if you say but I think if you put that into place, you wouldn't sack Thomas Tuchel to have the under-23s manager, would you? You'd go, let's keep Tuchel.
Yeah. Ben, what do you think about that?
I think there's three things. So obviously you're saying it from the perspective of benefiting the manager, right? But I guess if the team wants to go and sack a manager, then the manager's walking away with millions of pounds these days. And whilst it's not about that, I think that kind of covers them in a sense of being sacked. But I just think football's also a business as well. And if you're at work and you're not performing, you want to get rid of the people that aren't performing. And if, for example, you are, just say you're West Ham now and, you can't sack Moyes and it's only February the 8th, and all of a sudden, you've lost the last few games, you've got to wait to the end of the season, which could effectively put you down if Moyes, if he's lost the players. I'm using Moyes as an example. But if he loses the players and they turn on him like Blues have done famously with the last 3 or 4 managers, then as a club and the fans, they're the ones that are suffering.
Well, speaking of Blues, man, what about Gary Rowett? He got sacked after a 2-1 win against Ipswich when we were 7th.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand that. But
that doesn't make sense, and that's the other end of the scale, isn't it? In which case,
Jose Mourinho was sacked the week before a cup final for Tottenham.
But I just think it's the club's prerogative to go. I don't agree with you, man, that they go.
And then if you look at Arsenal, like last season, they were begging for Arteta to be sacked, and now he's top of the league. Yeah,
but if you keep a manager for that extra 4 months until the summer transfer window, that's not going to guarantee that you're going to move 5 places of the league, are you?
No, but I think most things show that if you give a manager time, most of the time he turns it round and you actually go on to do something. Fergie was only like a couple of bad results from losing his job at Man United. He then went on to become the best manager ever.
Yeah, but then shouldn't the argument be more if you give a manager a 2-year contract, then you have to honour that 2 years, as opposed to saying, I'm going to give you a 3-year contract, but there's only 3 months left and I can get rid of you if I want to anyway.
Well, I think we've got transfer windows, haven't we? So you can move players on and bring players in. But we use the transfer window. So I just think the manager should be used the same. And the backroom staff, if you just do it with everyone, if you want to change something in your club that's playing staff and backroom staff, you use the transfer window.
It's not a bad call, to be fair. I never really looked at it like that. Because, like Paul said, the amount of managers that don't get given enough time, it's ridiculous, and they're coming off the back of wins and still being sacked.
I can see it from 2 points of view. Firstly, I agree with Ben in that I think if you're a club like, for example, Leicester City right now, you're just above the relegation zone. Southampton, who are bottom, have got a game in hand. If they win that, they go above you. There comes a time where you think to yourself, okay, Brendan Rodgers isn't the right man. We can get rid of him now, bring in another manager who's going to keep us up this season, and then look for a long-term appointment. Not having the ability to bring in someone else.
Changing the manager's not going to guarantee that you stay up.
It's not. Sure. It's not going to.
You could end up bringing it. You could end up bringing in Nathan Jones.
But what if it's obviously just not working?
You decided to sign him as a manager, and you got to live with your consequences.
What if the manager leaves?
Well, it's a different
What's
thing, isn't it? If he turns around and goes, "Oh, I'm off. Don't
Well,
want to do this anymore."
that would be the other question that I have. Like, obviously, I like the idea from the point of view of other clubs. So you look at, for example, Brighton. Under Potter, they were doing really well. They've,
Yeah, and then Chelsea come and nick him.
yeah, I think it stops that from happening, or at least it minimises that from happening. And I think it's good for the so-called smaller teams when they're actually performing above expectations. A big team just coming in and saying, "Okay, we'll have you managing that." It does prevent that. So from both sides, I can see. But then, as Ben just said, what happens if your manager decides to quit? Do you then not have a manager until the transfer window?
Well, no. Obviously, then you've got to look at it in a certain like. You can't just be black and white. This is the way it is, and this is like we're talking about something that we thought about for like the last 4 minutes. Like,
I think it's different if a manager walks to being sacked though. If you want to get rid of a manager, you do it in the transfer window.
But the thing that I would then put in is if he halfway through the season goes, I don't want to do this no more, I'm off. He's got to wait until the start of next season until he can get a job.
Yeah.
But then how do you replace that manager then though if you can't take anyone?
Well, no. Then obviously the club will be allowed to go out and find a manager, but they're going to have to find a manager who is out of work. Yeah.
Well, going back to Crystal Palace Leicester, since 2000, Crystal Palace have sacked 28 managers.
Wow.
Since the year 2000, and Leicester have sacked 27.
Look at Watford. Watford sacked they have 5 managers a season.
It's crazy.
I think there should be a limit on how many times you can just pick up and fire a manager. I think if you're a team like Watford, for example, and you're just hiring a manager, firing a manager, hiring a manager, firing a manager, at some point they need to look at it and say, look, this is getting a bit excessive. But I just think that if a team is obviously in need of change from the manager, limiting that, you just get to a situation where in January half the teams will sack their managers.
Yeah, but then half the team, but then you do that with your players. You go, I really need a new midfielder. January rolls around, you go, I'm going out to buy a midfielder.
But
you
how
can't
would
just do it?
Would you have a separate Would you have a separate transfer window? Because obviously one of the hard things would be if you're a new manager and you've been hired, you then have literally a number of weeks to bring in the players that you want, and you haven't had a chance to assess the team. You haven't had a chance to figure out the deadwood, so to speak.
Well, yeah, you could have your manager's transfer window in November then. And then he's got December, and then he's got January to bring in the players he wants.
Okay, so let's just go around and ask if we're in favour of manager transfer windows or against it. And we'll start with Paul, obviously.
No, I think it's a rubbish
okay, we'll go to Matty.
I think it's a good idea, to be fair, considering how many managers get sacked. Like the Watford, bringing up Watford is a great example. It's just willy-nilly, isn't it? And I think the managers do need time. So I don't think it's a bad shout.
Ben?
I agree managers need time, but I don't agree with a manager transfer window.
Well, you're wrong.
I think there should be some kind of limits in place on how many times a club can sack a manager in a season, but I don't think limiting it to a certain period is the way to do it. So I'd say I'm against it.
Or even just say that they have to have a certain amount of months before they can even be sacked.
It should be then honour your contracts rather than giving out 5-year contracts to managers. Give them a 1-year contract.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's a better way forward, like hiring a manager on a 1-year contract rather than just pumping out these long-term contracts for a manager that you don't know is going to do well. Obviously, will work out better. Like what contract is Potter on?
Couldn't tell you.
Was it like something stupid, like a 6-year contract?
I was going to say one of them 8-year ones that Chelsea were throwing out.
Gonna say.
Well, apparently he's just signed a 3-year extension. Oh, sorry, in February he signed a 3-year extension, which will see him the Chelsea manager until 2030.
See, but if Potter was at Watford, he would have been gone last month.
Yeah.
But the same.
No, you're not wrong.
To be fair, if Roman Abramovich was still at Chelsea, he'd have been gone as well.
Well, to be fair, like I don't think Chelsea should have sacked Tuchel. I think that was like he's just come on off the back of winning the Champions League.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't having a terrible season. So to sack him, I don't know what the thought process was behind that. I think it was just a case of the Chelsea owner went, well, Tuchel was hired by Abramovich. I don't want to be Abramovich. I'm sacking him.
Or did he just not want Tuchel?
That's what I think. I think you're right, mate. Yeah, I just think Todd, whatever his name is, just didn't want him.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to move on and take a look at some Championship fixtures.
I'm just looking at how many managers I think Watford have had over the years.
I was going to say, Matty pulled out Palace and Leicester. It'd be interesting to see how many managers.
Watford matched that 27 last 2 years.
Right. How far back do you want to go?
So
it's 2000.
Yeah, 2000.
I went to 2000. That's what I went to.
So since 2000, right, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17,
and
18,
that's just
19,
in the 2000
20,
season.
21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27.
27 as well.
I'm surprised though to think that was the same.
Oh, I was listening to Ben Foster talk to what's his face at West Ham, Mark Noble.
Yeah.
And I think he worked out that since Ben Foster had been back to Watford in 2018, he'd had like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 managers, and that was more than Mark Noble had in his whole Watford career.
West Ham career.
His whole West Ham career, yeah. So he had that many. It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
Yeah, that is a lot. So what we'll do now is we'll take a look at some Championship fixtures, and as you're all Birmingham City fans, I feel the best place to start is at St Andrews. So Birmingham City versus Blackburn.
8-0 Blues.
Well, before we go on the predictions, I just want to obviously I asked you earlier on about what you thought about Birmingham's season, but I just want to kind of discuss the problems that Blues are having. What? Obviously,
where do we start?
Because you started the season quite well. It wasn't long ago you were not far off a playoff spot, and then suddenly your form just seems to have dropped off a cliff. So
our problems start deep in the foundations of the ground.
It's straight from top to bottom. It's mad.
I keep hearing that Everton are the worst run club in the country, and that it's wrong. We're by miles the worst run club in the country.
We are a farce. We really are, and it kills me.
That's it. And I think on top of that as well, like a lot of the fans now, like I'd even go as far as saying like 85%, they still think that we're this big club that should be fighting for the top of the championship, and we're just not.
We're really not. We're far off that,
I look at the Blues.
I
look at the Blues Facebook pages, and it fills me with rage looking at some of them speak.
It was so far off top of the table. I mean, top half the table, let alone anywhere near the top 6. It was a false position to start the season.
The one that bothers me is the amount of stick Troy Deeney gets. I sit there thinking he's never been a bloke who scores tons of goals. He's come to us towards the end of his career, and we don't get the ball to strikers anyway. What do you want him to do? Pick the ball up at the right back position and do a Messi and score 20 goals a season? Or what?
Yes,
I don't know what we expect from him.
I think most Blues fans, with Troy being a Blues fan and him coming from a Premier League squad, expected way more than what they've seen.
Yeah, but what were you? None of them seen him play football before?
No, I know where you're coming from. I'm just saying, as a Blues fan base as a whole, when we found out we signed in Troy Deeney, everybody's like, bloody hell, that's a
everyone thought
big
25 goals, yeah.
And everybody did. Of course they did. But
has he ever done that in his life?
No.
Did he ever do that for Sunday League teams?
Possibly when he was about 4.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like he's there to be a big horrible nuisance of a centre forward,
and we expect him at the moment.
And we expect him to work miracles.
But I think Matt is right there. So I think the counter argument is with Deeney is that I would much rather have Djokovic on the pitch than him.
But I'd rather have both of them on the pitch at the moment than Hogan. Hogan looks the most disinterested I've ever seen him.
Yeah, no. Considering I know he's not on a massive amount of goals, but the most he scored for Blues so far.
Was he on 10 now?
It's on 10, yeah.
When he pulled out of a one-on-one the other week, and I was just like,
You got to go through it, and yeah.
it's disgusting, isn't it? You can't pull out of them sort of.
Geezer's on like
challenges
10,
you've got to-
15 grand a week. I know it's not mega money, but for the player he is, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, but I'd do that down Power League.
Yeah.
I can't,
Yeah.
and I'm paying to go and play there. If me and that goalkeeper are going one-on-one,
You're
and I
gonna
think
take
I've got a
both.
chance of nicking that ball, I'm going for it.
Yeah, of course.
I ain't got to work with him in the morning and pick up his slack when he's hurt, have I?
Well, that's the thing. He goes to bed that night, waits up the next day with another 15 grand in his bank, then. But I mean, the club, as Paul and Mate said, like the club's run from top all the way down. But I think when you come to the players as well, I think we've got so much dead wood in there that we just need to get out, but we can't because we can't afford to replace them.
Yeah.
We have a team
Mark-
that relies
Mark
on
Roberts.
Oh,
Mark Roberts,
don't.
if you're listening, I will pay for your taxi fare.
I'll double it for notes so you can get yourself a pint as well. Just get out the club.
Take your
Long throw
with
you,
you.
long throw your way up the M6, man.
Yeah.
So is it a
But-
case of you think that if Blues got new owners, because obviously there's been a whole big circus around Blues being bought out, will they, won't they? And I think now it was a talk of point deduction because potential new owners have invested money into the club and so on and so forth.
I think we're always on the verge of a point
Yeah.
deduction.
It wouldn't be a season without Blues on the verge of a point deduction.
But is
Yeah.
it a case though that you just desperately need new owners to come in now?
Well, I mean, yeah, that is one aspect of it. Yeah.
At the moment, there's nothing. We can't progress as a club until we aren't owned by who, and I can't even tell you who owns us.
No,
It's the
I don't think
problem.
many people can.
Is nobody knows who actually owns us, and we can't move on as a club until we are owned by somebody who, one, has a face, and two, can invest some real money into the club.
Because the thing is, I actually don't mind John Eustace. I don't think he's the finished article. I don't think he's perfect, but I think what he's brought to Blues this season, and don't be wrong, it frustrates me that he has to go to the crowd like he's winning Champions League every time we win. Like I don't like that much,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
he's brought this sense of like he has brought the fans back a little bit. He has brought the team back a little bit, and he's actually playing some decent football in there. A lot of the games we've been quite unfortunate not to win.
I
But
don't know. There was them 12 games where we were absolutely woeful.
oh well, yeah,
Straight
But-
after Christmas. Ridiculous.
Came
absolute
back from the
tripe, weren't we?
when back after the World Cup, man. We were. I don't know what happened. He just seemed to be a
different team, wasn't it?
different team. Yeah.
But he needs someone to come in, and I'm not saying like give him 20 million. It's unrealistic, right? It ain't gonna happen. But he just
No,
needs someone
somebody come in and give him 20 million.
It would be nice, but just come in and just say, look, okay, do you know what? You're gonna get 5, 6, 7, 8 million. You know, let's replace the deadwood, and then you can go out and loan these other players, and there's your depth that's coming in. And I think we just need 2 or 3 seasons of doing that to establish ourselves, and then go for a push.
It's going to be a long couple of years for Blues fans. It really is.
So
We need something.
I think
do you
at the moment, I think there's more likely that we won't exist than we will ever be a Premier League side again.
And I ain't supporting Walsall after.
Yeah.
Nothing.
No.
so
No, I'm going down the moors.
so do you think though that it's going to be a long couple of years for Blues still in the Championship, or do you think that?
No, we'll be lucky to stay in the Championship if it keeps going the way it is.
Yeah, 100%.
So-
I mean,
But just-
Do you think you're safe this season?
I think
I'll
we'll
do
stay
it
next
besides,
season.
yeah, I think we're right this season. But if we don't get something next season over the Jude Bellingham sale, that is what the owners are waiting for, I think, before the sale. I think
Yeah.
they're waiting for Jude to go. They're going to get, I don't know, 15 million or 20 million, whatever it be, and then they're sell. And then we'll see nothing of that Jude Bellingham sale. We'll have to rely on our new owners, hopefully having a bit of cash to be even.
Do you know what I think the actual reason that they haven't sold us for is they've just sold the stadium off to some sort of property development guy, and there's going to be a brand new HS2 hub in Smallheath. So you can sell that bit of ground off and put a load of houses on it and make an absolute fortune.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, going back to Chris's question regarding the game, over the last 5 meetings, Blues haven't beat Blackburn. We've conceded 15 goals and only scored 6.
Well, looking at Blackburn, obviously, since they got relegated from the Premier League, they've had some terrible seasons and they've had some okay seasons. Obviously, now they're 5th. Do you think Blackburn can finally push and get back into the Premier League, or do you think that it's just another step too far for them?
I think Burnley, Sheffield United, and Middlesbrough are the teams are going to go up.
If Blackburn have got a chance, it's going to be for the playoffs.
Oh, yeah, they won't finish second.
They won't make automatic, but the Championship's a really dodgy league. Anybody beats anybody. You could beat Watford one day and then you go and lose to Hull.
Well, I'm just looking at the table, and as soon as I saw Blackburn were 5th, I thought we'll beat them Saturday, and then we'll play somebody who's 22nd, and we'll lose to them.
Yeah.
I mean, as you said, they are 5th. They have a game in hand on 4th and 3rd. They have 61 points. So if they win that, they'll go on 64, which puts them 7 points clear of Norwich in 7th.
It just goes to show that like, if you look at the table from all the way from 1st to 13th, Blackburn have lost the most games.
Yeah,
they're still in the 5th position.
Yeah, they've when you look at, especially when you look at, for example, Burnley lost 2, Sheffield United lost 9, Luton lost 8, and then you suddenly see Blackburn.
They just win or lose.
Yeah,
it's such a crazy league. It is one of the hardest in some aspects. It's harder than the Premier League because if you're a team that's not in the top 4, but you're not in the bottom 4, it's kind of an easy league, really, isn't it? It's a chill league.
If you look at some of the teams that have come down from the Premier, where they are now, like your Portsmouth, your Boltons, your Sunderland, your Sheffield Uniteds, Coventry, they're all struggling to get back into the Prem, and it's been like that for years.
So do you see Blackburn getting promoted at like anytime soon,
not this season?
No, if they can continue to build and play the way they're playing, maybe in a couple of seasons, but I don't think they'll get it this season. There's too many good teams.
I think
Burnley are walking the league.
Yeah. Well, I think with Blackburn, the biggest issue they've got is if you look at the goals, they've scored 43, which is the lowest out of the top 6. But then they've also conceded 42, which is I think Middlesbrough are level with them, but Middlesbrough have scored 69, so they're not scoring a lot of goals, but they're also conceding a lot of goals.
Middlesbrough were also bottom of the league at Christmas.
Yes.
Just before.
So
Michael Carrick has worked absolute wonders.
He really has
with Middlesbrough.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll move on. And the next one we're going to look at is Wigan QPR. So obviously Wigan bottom of the league. Are we just feeling Wigan going down this year? Obviously, I think there's news reports that have come out that they're not paying their players.
I was going to say they're struggling on all fronts, aren't they?
And they can still beat us.
So
QPR are a pony as well, though. You've picked another game that is like.
Well, the reason why I found this game interesting was if you look at the last set of fixtures, Wigan, although they're bottom on the league, they have drew a lot of games. They've drew 13 so far, and they've drew against teams like Watford draw, Coventry draw, Bristol draw, Norwich draw. Then you look at QPR, they're losing games, but they're losing games big. Middlesbrough 3-1, Blackburn 3-1, Blackpool 6-1, Hull 3-0. It's
Blues 1-0.
Yeah, I was going to say, didn't we miss out the last one? Yeah.
Well, but like it's one of those, like on form, you would think that QPR would be in the bottom 3 with those losses, and Wigan, it's almost like if they can convert those draws into wins, that'll be okay.
It's a similar story to Middlesbrough, but in reverse. So, November time, QPR was second in the league. And then Michael Beale goes to Rangers, and, they win once every 4 or 5, 6, 7 games. And I don't think personally as well that Ainsworth's that great. So for him to come
I think he's done a great job at Wickham.
Yeah, but he's done a good job in terms of keeping them there, hasn't he?
He's done what no one expected Wickham to do. What like Wickham? You get him in the Championship and things like that. He's done magic. He's worked magic at Wickham.
Yeah, I don't. Well, yeah, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I just think QPR have got the ability to attract a better manager, maybe a more known manager. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking rubbish,
Are
but
QPR still owned by the rich people? Like, are they still a rich club, or is that
I
time
don't
gone?
think so. And I
Is it
don't
that
think the
was-
rich. I don't think the rich people were really rich, was they? I think it was all a big.
Big
Like
farce.
it was all a bit. Yeah, it was all a bit underhand and a bit dodgy, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think Les Ferdinand's still like the director of football.
yeah. So, basically, we're thinking it's going to be a relegation fight with those two teams involved. Do we think QPR are safe, or?
I mean, the 6 points clear QPR at the moment, but their form's horrendous, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're losing, like, you can lose games, obviously, but then when you're losing games, like, for example, I'll take the pick out of that with being Blackpool, who are, like, just above Wigan in the table, and then you lose 6-1. Like, surely if you're a team that wants to be considered safe, you need to start beating the teams below you.
Absolutely.
Reading a poo as well.
Well, thankfully, we're not going to be talking about Reading. The third game
Oh, I
is.
wanted to talk about Reading just so we could talk about Paul Ince Doys.
Well, maybe we'll do.
Early bloke in the league that could look at both ends of the pitch at the same time.
Well, maybe we'll talk about Reading next week. But the final game is going to be Huddersfield versus Middlesbrough. I wanted to focus on what you were saying, Ben, about the turnaround that Middlesbrough have had, and also looking at facts such as, they're third in the league, but they've scored 69 goals. They're actually playing really good attacking football. I think they've scored.
Yeah, they play really good football as well.
Yeah. Akpom and Cameron Archer it's like a good old fashioned two solid strikers in it. So I actually don't score many, but it's just so dangerous. Akpom's
He's one of them as well, isn't he, Archer? Was he on loan from them?
Yeah.
Lot down the road.
Come down the road, yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, and then with Huddersfield, obviously looking at the history, the recent history Huddersfield has had, to see them in propping up the bottom through. Yeah, it's almost like they are.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it shows just how above their, like how much they were punching above their weight to get to where they got to.
Yeah.
Was it the Crowley brothers that took him in the playoffs?
Thingy got him promoted. What was his name?
Was it not?
I think Ben's right, isn't it? It was those brothers that took him up.
I thought it was it Wagner, David Wagner?
I thought it was Wagner as well.
Oh yeah, it could be
Yeah,
right.
yeah, you're probably right actually. Yeah, David Wagner.
So
they're just another fall from grace, aren't they? Like 2-3 years ago, they were competing in the top four, and now
just punching above their weight. And it's caught up with them.
I think
apart from playing against Blues, they seem to lose the majority of the games.
I think a lot of teams when they've gone into I think a lot of teams when they have gone into the Premier League, they seem to have one season where they perform above expectations. Maybe it's because they've come up from the Championship. Premier League teams don't really know about them, but it's happened in the past with teams like Ipswich, for example. They're like pushing top six, and everyone's thinking, well, these are a force now. They could be like here to stay. And then suddenly they get relegated, and then they get relegated again, and then like with Portsmouth, for example, they went all the way down. Do you see Huddersfield going down?
At the moment, it's a possibility, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I think
they're
they could.
favourites, aren't they?
I think the three worst teams in the league are in the bottom three.
Yeah.
And then I think you've already said that you think Middlesbrough will go up this season, but do you see them being able to make top two, or do you think it's a playoff?
I think Middlesbrough could sneak the top two. Yeah.
Yeah, if they carry on playing the way they're playing under Carrick.
Yes.
Yeah, they ain't going to make first. Obviously, Burnley are walking the league, but definitely make second place easy.
Well, Sheffield United are currently second with 70 points. Middlesbrough are third with 67, but Sheffield United do have a game in hand.
Yeah. But they're also still in the cup. And I think if you ask Middlesbrough fans, I think they'd probably want them to stay in the cup for as long as possible.
Well, they got City, ain't they? So I don't think it's going to last long, Ben.
No. Stranger things have happened.
Well, yeah.
I think if you said to Middlesbrough fans, you can go out the cup or you can make second.
I think they'd take.
Sheffield.
I think they'd take guaranteed promotion.
Yeah, you're gonna take promotion all day long.
Yeah, if you ask their fans, but I think Middlesbrough just wanted them to carry on just for the sake of tiredness, fatigue, injuries, red card, whatever.
What, to go out of the cup, you mean?
Yeah, so Middlesbrough want Sheffield to stay in the cup for as long as
Oh, I
possible.
see what you
yeah,
mean.
yeah,
Yeah, from a,
Injuries and fatigue. From a Sheffield perspective, yeah, absolutely. They don't care if they get knocked out 3 rounds ago if they know they're going to secure second.
yeah, definitely. All right then. So what we'll do now is set the predictions. So Birmingham versus Blackburn. We'll start with Matty.
I'm gonna be optimistic. I'm gonna go 1-0 Blues.
Paul.
I was also going 1-0 Blues.
Ben.
Sorry, lads, I got 2 on Blackburn.
Ooh.
Right.
I had 1-0 Blues then, so there's 3 1-0s in there. And then we'll go to Ben. Wigan v QPR.
I've gone 3-1 to QPR.
Matty.
2-0 QPR.
Paul.
4-0.
I'll be honest, I've got 1-1. I'm looking at the recent form, the amount of games that Wigan have drew and the amount of goals that QPR have conceded, I can't pick a winner. And then finally, Huddersfield, Middlesbrough. We'll start with you, Ben.
3-0 Middlesbrough.
Paul.
4-0 Middlesbrough.
Matty.
I've gone 4-1 Middlesbrough.
I've gone 3-1 Middlesbrough for this one. Okay, so that's our fixture predictions for those. So finally, what I wanted to talk about is the Manager Hall of Fame. Obviously, Ferguson and Wenger have both been inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Rightly so.
Yep, I agree both of them should be in there. But then what I was thinking is, with those two, they've obviously set a precedent in the Premier League. What they achieved over their Premier League careers was amazing. What is the criteria, do you think, for a manager to make it into the Hall of Fame?
So I think that it's obviously you've got your main ones winning titles and dominating, but if you only picked managers that have won titles or dominated it at the top of the league, then your Hall of Fame is actually only that not got many people in.
Yeah, it's a very short list.
So I think you've got to have people that were like, if you look at what Sean Dyche did for Burnley while he was in the Premier League and things like that, or the fact that Steve Bruce has managed, like, is it 1,000 games or something ridiculous, and a lot of them being Premier League games. You got to look at people like that and go, well, actually, he might not have been at the top end of the table, but he's had a ridiculous career as a Premier League manager.
Yes.
Like I don't think the criteria can only be based on what you've won. I think it has to be based on how many games you've managed in the league, how many teams you've managed in the league, like how far up the league you've taken smaller clubs. Like Burnley's success can't be measured in the same success as Man United, which means that Sean Dyche's success can't be measured in the same way that you measure Alex Ferguson's success. What Sean Dyche did at Burnley, I think, is as impressive as winning a Premier League with Man United. Taking Burnley to Europe is like winning a league with Man United.
Yeah. So I think when I saw about the Hall of Fame, like the first two managers that came to my mind was Harry Redknapp and Sam Allardyce. So I was thinking more about sort of the personalities, and then you look at the histories of, like, for example, Allardyce, what he'd done at Bolton. And obviously Harry Redknapp has been around quite a few different clubs in the Premier League. He's been there managing so many games, clubs like Tottenham, West Ham, so on and so forth. But then from the opposite side, I agree with what you were saying, Paul. If you actually went by Premier League winners, you actually don't have that many. When you think about it.
I think there's a couple of other aspects as well. I think also when you think of Wenger and Ferguson, so Ferguson was there for 26 years, 27 years or something, and Wenger was there for 22 or 23 years. And it kind of goes back into Paul's argument earlier about management's getting sacked in a certain window. But to have a manager to be at a club for that long is an achievement in itself. And yes, like their achievements, Wenger went invincible. he won 3 titles, etc. You know, Ferguson won 13, etc., etc. But even if you just was at a club now for 25 years and you finished 8th every season, like that for me is a big achievement.
But yeah, definitely. Like when you look in the Premier League now, I think Jurgen Klopp's the longest serving manager at 7 years. You know, so
But
I think the days
yeah.
of like the Ferguson style 27-year career, I think they're gone. It's 20 at one club, that is. I think those days
Yeah.
are gone. I don't,
Yeah, because managers aren't given time anymore.
yeah. What do you think, Matty? What would you set the criteria to be for a manager to get into the Hall of Fame?
I think what Paul said. Like obviously, small clubs can't be compared to the elite clubs because it's just different. Trying to keep a small club afloat in the Premier League when you're fighting against the likes of Man City, Arsenal, Man U, all those with money, it's got to be hard. And you're starting all these players that have never had Champions League experience or anything like that, and they're still battling and finishing 8th or 7th. That's really good going.
Yes, but in terms of winning like titles, would you put people like Pellegrini in there and Roberto Mancini?
Obviously, always winning titles is always going to get you inducted into a Hall of Fame, isn't it? Because that's what people look for. Well, Alex Ferguson's won like 27 or 28 odd trophies in his managerial career. 13 of them being Premier Leagues, and all of them are going to think bloody hell, 13 Premier League titles.
I mean, do we class like Champions League titles in?
No, it has to be. It's a Premier League Hall of Fame, isn't it?
So if you're going by that, then there's no real difference between Jurgen Klopp and Claudio Ranieri.
Well, no, exactly.
Title each, yeah.
But I think that Ranieri, that what he done with Leicester, like it's never going to be repeated. You would put Ranieri in there, surely.
What Ranieri did at Leicester, I think, is one of the biggest, not just footballing achievements, sporting achievements.
Yeah, definitely.
To take someone who barely survived relegation to win the whole thing, it's unheard of. It doesn't happen.
Yeah,
there was
can't see
the
it
odds
happen
of
again.
it happening. There was better odds of finding Elvis alive than there was Leicester winning the league.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that, like, saying that, I understand what you're saying, Ben, from that point of view, but you definitely include Ranieri in there, surely.
But then when you compare him to Wenger and Ferguson, they're in there. It's almost like, well...
I
think if you're going to compare every manager to Wenger and Ferguson, no one else gets in there.
Yeah, they're in a league of their own. They're not in a... You can't... It's uncomparable.
But you're just trying to, like, find out what the variables are, though, aren't you? So, like, they've obviously put Wenger and Ferguson in there for what they've won.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a list here of managers who have taken charge of the most Premier League games. Arsene Wenger is number 1 with 828 at Arsenal. Sir Alex Ferguson is 810 at Manchester United. Then you've got Harry Redknapp with 641, David Moyes with 621, Sam Allardyce, Steve Bruce, Mark Hughes, Jose Mourinho, Martin O'Neill. Now, I think Steve Bruce, I'd put him in the Hall of Fame just on sheer teams that he's taken to the Premier League and then managed to keep in the Premier League. Same as Sam Allardyce. And what Moyes did for Everton and then did what he's kind of done at West Ham. It's hard to argue with him. And Harry Redknapp goes in there, not just on his, like, what he's done at West Ham and Portsmouth and Tottenham.
January sales.
He goes with his jam loaded coolies, man.
He's a character, and he like.
Yeah.
I think that's what I kind of thought when I thought about Hall of Fame, was more about the characters. Like, when you think of, like, Premier League managers, you think of the ones that stand out. Like, one of my favourite managers, even though I don't particularly like the teams' manager, Mick McCarthy, because I always liked his, like, post-game interviews and stuff like that. So I kind of always thought a Hall of Fame would be more about the popular sort of figures. But yeah, like the two that I said both are in the most managed list as well. So that's quite good. So that kind of leads on to the next question of who do we think would be the next manager to be inducted into the Hall of Fame?
I think Pep is the only manager that can be realistically considered.
Well,
would you think?
Sorry, would
Jose Mourinho.
Would you would you put managers who are still managing into the Hall of Fame, or would it only be retired managers? Because obviously a player wouldn't get into the Player Hall of Fame until their career is finished. Would it not be the
True.
same for managers?
Maybe, but I think even now you can pretty much start writing Pep's. If you think about it, obviously Wenger, for example, so he won 3 titles with Arsenal. Pep will double that in not even a third of the time.
Yeah.
Like it's such an amount. You can say what you want about Man City about all the billions put in and all that kind of stuff, which it is a factor, but he's still done that, and is like, if he stayed at Man City for the same time that Wenger stayed at Arsenal, you're talking like probably 17, 18 titles.
Yeah.
Wenger did have to completely rebuild Arsenal.
Yeah.
He did. And I think Wenger also brought a different style into England, which
I think Wenger changed Premier League football.
yeah, he did. And I think a lot of people are probably grateful for that. We've gone from route one, long ball, deep defending, hard tackles to actually playing football. And I think a lot of teams model themselves off that.
That Arsenal side was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was crazy. That
Yeah.
season was unbelievable.
Although I do think, and I'm probably going to get a bit of stick here, the Invincibles played for too many draws towards the end of the season.
Well, I
It
think that
doesn't really matter.
I think that leads on to another debate, like what's more impressive, the Invincibles or Man United's treble.
Man United's treble, I think.
100%, yeah.
I don't think anyone's going to replicate the Invincible, whereas I think the treble can be replicated.
I think the Invincibles would have been a lot better if, because I can't remember the exact stat, but I'm pretty sure towards the end of the season they drew like loads of games.
I think they did draw quite a few games that season, but I think the one thing that stands out for me is when I think Wenger said in an interview that the aim was to not lose another game, and I think Ferguson came out laughing about it and so on and so forth. And the fact that they went on and done it, I think even if they drew a lot of them, like, it's still a brilliant achievement.
I'm looking at that squad now, and
They should have won a lot more.
It's actually insane, isn't it?
Philip Senderos is in there.
But I mean, like, they only drew 12 all season, and yes, you can probably say it's quite high, but I mean, they substantially won the league. Like it wasn't close. It was like 11 points clear.
Yeah, but it could have been loads more.
Could have, but it doesn't really matter, does it?
So in their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games, they drew 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But their last probably 5 games, they drew 3 of them. So they were going out not to lose. They weren't going out to win.
But it's like Man U only needed a point against Blackburn, and it was 1-1.
They drew against us. We drew with them. Right, so right.
Is that when Walter Pandiani scored? Was that the last game of the season?
No, it was 0-0.
No.
I think the one you're on about is Heskey scored right at the death, didn't he? And we beat him 2-1.
That's the one, yeah.
It was a good goal from Pandiani as well. I remember that one.
That's a great strike. That's why they called him the rifle.
So with 6 games left, they had Leeds. They beat them 5-0. They then went to Tottenham 2-2. They then went to. Then we had them at home, so they were playing Birmingham City at home, 0-0 draw. They then had Portsmouth away, 1-1. They then beat Fulham 1-0 and beat Leicester 2-1. They should have won every one of them games.
They should have, but I think you're scraping the barrel here.
I'm not. And then there's loads more in the start of the season. Like, it's just them 5 games. They should have gone out and fucking smashed them all. I've ruined it. I've swore.
That's
Should have smashed. Should have smashed them and then put a right stamp on it.
Well, yeah, but I think if you've got the opportunity to suddenly go a season unbeaten, would you, like, if the league's already wrapped up at that point, you're going to win the league, is it not better to just go, you know what, there's something on here that's never going to be...
For me, not if you're just going to whimper over the line, no.
Okay. All right, well, we can carry this on. Ben, what do you think's a better achievement, Man United's treble or Arsenal's Invincibles?
I'd have to say the treble, if I'm being honest with you, but I don't think, like I just said, I don't think the Invincible is going to be repeated, whereas I do think the treble will be repeated.
Well, I think why has it not been, would be my question.
I think it's the way that Man U won the treble. That
Well,
was
yeah.
more, that was more brilliant management from Ferguson.
So are you agreeing with the treble then, Matty, as well?
I just think the treble was just a great achievement, but obviously so is going unbeaten in a season. Like what Ben said, I don't think it's ever going to be done again.
I think you go out to win as many trophies as possible, don't you?
Yeah,
Arsenal won one trophy by going unbeaten. Man U won 3.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, no, it's...
Well, I mean, I think the treble is a better achievement, especially the way that Man U won the Champions League.
Champions League, yeah.
That was just like another level. So yeah, that kind of brings an end to today. So I'll give you a chance to have your final say if you want to say anything else. We'll start with Matty.
No, I've enjoyed it. I don't think that any more needs to be said. I've covered out all the topics today.
Okay.
So.
All right, Paul.
Yeah, I think I've covered everything.
We've had our say.
Yeah, I don't like Newcastle. I don't like Man United.
I get the impression that you don't like many teams, Paul.
No, I don't. If I'm honest, I like Birmingham City, and everyone else can get in the bin.
And Ben, have you got any final points you'd like to make?
No, not really. Just business end of the leagues now, so this is where the excitement comes in, isn't it? So looking forward to the final sort of 10 games.
Excellent. So we're going to end it there. And as always, if you liked listening to the podcast, drop a like. If you have any topics that you'd like us to discuss on future episodes, put a comment down below. And also subscribe to get notified when we are next publishing a video. So thank you, everyone. And thank you, Matty, Paul and Ben, for joining today.
My pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
Blues.